Hello, my name's Malaika Weaver. I'm an artist and an athlete, and I also have ADD and dyslexia. I actually entered kindergarten knowing how to read and loving school, but it was only until I entered third grade where staying on task and reading became really difficult for me. I was eager to learn, I was outgoing and well behaved, but that just wasn't enough. Malaika is sweet but needs to work harder, or Malaika could do so much more if she could just stay on task, the teachers would say. And my falling behind was attributed to a lack of effort. It happened so slowly that no one actually seemed to notice that there was a real problem going on. So with each year I squeaked by, I lost my enthusiasm for school bit by bit. In middle school, I fell farther behind because I started to distance myself from my friends and social groups. So by the time I hit 8th grade, I was eating my lunch in the girls' restroom alone. And at that point, I was completely checked out and I didn't like school anymore. My parents requested testing, but the school was reluctant because I didn't present, in their opinion, with any obvious learning differences. I wasn't a behavior problem. If I paid attention and tried harder, everything would be fine. I was a bright student, capable, just not living up to my potential. But what they didn't know is that I was working hard. I was working hard to listen. I was working hard to read. I was working hard to finish projects, but I was still falling short. Entering high school, St. Mary's was a new start for me, and I was really excited for the do-over. I started off really strong, but I began to become quickly overwhelmed with the beginning of the pandemic and virtual learning that followed. The Zoom lecture style was a death blow to me. I struggled to engage, I struggled to participate and retain any information. It was just so rough. I struggled to stay engaged, and it became easier and easier to disappear into the background. I started feeling less than, depressed, and I found it hard to concentrate on schoolwork or really anything for that matter. I was ready to give up, and my grades reflected that. My parents saw how badly I was falling apart and decided to get me tested, and the summer into my junior year, I was finally assessed and I received the diagnosis of dyslexia and ADD. Since then, I've had accommodations set in place for me. I have an ECP, and I also got a tutor, but I've really had to advocate for myself and also learn new strategies to help better manage my schoolwork and social activities. Okay, this is great, but I still don't entirely know what dyslexia is. Well, I am so happy you asked. Let me tell you all about it. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is a specific learning difference that is neurobiological in origin. It's a brain thing. Dyslexia is caused by different wiring of the brain. Dyslexia is characterized by difficulties in accurate and or fluent word recognition and poor spelling. Dyslexia affects 1 in every 10 people, and dyslexia has no relationship to intelligence. The way individuals with dyslexia think can often be an asset in achieving success. Those with dyslexic processing are highly intuitive, creative, divergent thinkers, and have an advanced ability to reason and create three-dimensional visual, spatial information in one's mind. Some common symptoms that you'll see with dyslexia, I know I have experienced these: difficulty reading, including reading aloud, slow and labor-intensive reading and writing, mispronouncing names, words, or problem retrieving words, avoiding activities that involve reading, spending an unusually long time completing tasks that involve reading or writing, difficulty summarizing a story, trouble learning a foreign language, difficulty doing math, word problems, and problem spelling. Now, these are just a few of the many popular people who have dyslexia. We have Steve Jobs, John F. Kennedy, Beethoven, Kobe Bryant, Orlando Bloom, Magic Johnson, Whoopi Goldberg, Octavia Spencer, Joe Montana, and there's many, many more. So just to put this into perspective, there are many people out there who have dyslexia, so you are not alone. I want to touch on ADD just a little bit because this may not go for everybody, but ADD or ADHD might come with dyslexia. So, ADD or ADHD is a neurological disorder that causes people to struggle with paying attention or staying focused for long periods of time. Some symptoms may include being easily distracted, difficulty following directions, difficulty staying on task, forgetfulness, losing personal items such as keys or books, not paying attention to details, problems staying organized, keeping up with assignments, and a short attention span. Assignments, desks, and lockers may look disorganized. Students may lose materials at school and at home or misplace schoolwork and fail to turn in assignments. This can frustrate teachers and parents and result in poor grades in class. Before I got diagnosed, and even during the earlier stages when I was still trying to navigate my diagnosis, there were a few coping strategies that I actually did, such as art, softball, connecting with others, that really helped me get through more difficult times. Art was a major outlet for me to express myself freely with no judgment. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, stressed, or isolated, I would create pieces connected to how I was feeling. Here you can see one of my short animations that I made, and this was during a time when I was isolating myself and I felt like I just pushed everybody away. But when I posted it, I didn't think that I would get over 100,000 people to watch that video. And the responses and the comments that I got from it were very validating for me because it was a majority of the people who were connecting to how I felt and they were relating to what I had just posted, and it made me feel like I wasn't alone and that there were people who were struggling just like me. I made another short animation, but this one was focused around the pressure school and others were putting onto me. For this animation, I got another 100,000 people to watch my video, and the responses I got were very similar to the last. It was a bunch of people encouraging me to keep pushing and to keep trying hard. And again, it was very validating for me to just reassure the fact that I wasn't alone in this process. When I get frustrated, it's always a struggle for me to put into words how I feel. Art has always been an outlet for me to show and express myself whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, and these pieces represent the different experiences and emotions that are common for me as I navigate school and social settings with dyslexia. Now, you've seen these pieces throughout my presentation so far, but there's another specific piece that I used, and it's called Torn Apart, to really show people what I was going through and what I was truly feeling during my pre-diagnosis. I used this piece in an art competition, again, to share my message and to share my story. So the title of this piece is called Torn Apart, and it's centered around dyslexia, but more specifically, my experience with it before I got diagnosed. So before I got diagnosed, there was never really a subject in school I was ever really interested or engaged with. Math, science, and English, it all drained me. It was all tiring. And I was practically failing socially, academically, mentally, whole nine yards. I wasn't doing good. And my friends saw that and they decided to label me as the stupid, funny, slow friend of the group. And my teachers thought of me as the student in the class who just didn't care or who just wasn't trying hard. And so now I'm going to school and I'm surrounded by people who think of me that way every single day. I started to feed into that narrative that maybe I wasn't good enough, something's wrong with me. And every day I walked into school, I literally felt like I was being torn apart. I ended up getting tested for dyslexia. Turns out I have it. And that allowed me to get certain accommodations for school. So now it's more manageable and I'm actually able to compete with my classmates now. And I'm actually excelling in my academics, socially. Again, whole nine yards. I'm doing good. But for this piece, I wanted to capture that moment before I got diagnosed. And I wanted to highlight two main aspects of that. First being the background. I decided to have a jumble of letters and numbers. They kind of look like they're glitched. Some of them are gone, some of them are missing. Looks like it's moving because that's something I dealt with. If I was under a bunch of stress or I was just really overwhelmed, the letters and numbers, if it was for math or English, it would literally start moving for me. And I'd be like, what is going on? And so that was a huge aspect for me that affected me. So I wanted to add that into the background. And then for the faces, I wanted to capture agony. So I decided to have these two faces literally look like they're being pulled apart, but they're in a grayish scale with like a tint of this lighter blue, because I felt like that added to the eerie, sad feeling that I wanted to give off rather than like a pop of color, which I didn't think contributed to the message that much. And I didn't want there to be a bunch of jagged and sharp lines in the faces because I felt like that would give off more of an angry and intense kind of hurt rather than a soft, dull, kind of numb hurt. But that's what I was feeling. So that's why everything's kind of smooth in the faces. And I felt like I could
talk to people about how I was feeling all the time, but showing people through my art, which is something I'm really passionate about, I felt like would hit the audience better. So thank you.
Another outlet for me was softball. Softball literally kept me in school when I felt like I couldn't make it one more day. My school counselor advocated for me to continue playing with the team while we put additional supports in place. She believed participating in an activity I loved would help me stay encouraged when schoolwork was a challenge, and she was 100% right. I needed the physical exercise, not only that, but I also needed the social connection. I needed to do something in which I excelled, and it gave me the strength to push forward, and it was a reminder that I can do hard things even if I approach them differently. That home run you just saw was for a young kid named Calvin. He saw my piece torn apart on Facebook from his mom and began to cry. He shared that that was how he had been feeling about school, and finally seeing an art piece that depicted it really touched him. So I created this little clip for Calvin to watch, trying to encourage him to keep pushing through and to give him some sort of motivation because I was in his exact position when I was younger. At the end of the video, I promised to hit Calvin a home run in my next softball game, and that's what you saw from the previous clip. So for me, connecting with others, doing art, playing softball, those are all outlets for me. And so I would suggest to you that you find something that you're interested in, something you're curious about, something that you're passionate about, and you pursue that, because when you have an outlet you can go to, when you feel like everything around you is crumbling and you don't know what to do, it's nice to have something that you're confident in and you feel secure in, so you're just more at peace. For more academic solutions, breaking big jobs into small tasks will definitely help you stay more organized. Planners, checklists, and other task management strategies definitely help. Organization skills learned now will also help you succeed better as you get older, going into high school and college and as an adult. And find an accountability partner, whether that's a tutor, a parent, or a teacher, but somebody who can check in with you about your workload, your goals, and just your general well-being is really important. Once I received my diagnosis, I was relieved. I wasn't dumb, I wasn't lazy, my brain just worked differently than other people. 15% of people have dyslexia, and that made me realize I wasn't alone. And you're not alone either. I'm now able to understand the areas in where I need a lot more support than I thought I did before. Like, I can manage my workload much easier when I break down bigger projects into smaller chunks, and I also retain information better when I can listen to audiobooks. Once teachers found out that I had dyslexia and ADD, I found that they were very happy to help and support me. Not only that, but my diagnosis also highlighted areas in which I excelled, and it felt really good to hear that I was above average in some areas. I expressed myself through art, so it all made sense when my assessment came back and it said that I was superior in perceptual reasoning. The diagnosis ultimately confirmed what I believed myself to be: intelligent, hardworking, and creative, but it made me realize that I'm going to have to approach school and life differently now, and it's not going to get any easier for me, but it's just going to make it a little bit more manageable.